Afternoon. Okay.
Please go
Okay.
ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and good day, depending on your location or where you are watching us from across the world. I am Abayomi Victor Adisa. I am Victor Adisa Abayomi, your moderator for today's event. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Administrators Hub and the June edition, 2025 edition of our knowledge sharing series, KSS. We are excited to have you on board of this event today. And it's my pleasure to give you some of this information and announcement we have for you on this platform. I will employ you to take note of them because they will be useful for you as we go on this platform. We employ everyone to kindly check on our page to register for the Administrative Hub membership. This is to enable us to keep our esteemed members updated on our various programs that we run all through the month. We will be excited to have you subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us from time to time. Kindly and likewise join us on our growing network of our YouTube and the growing community that we have on Telegram. You can also follow us on our social media handles, LinkedIn, and also Facebook. We'll be happy to have you on those platforms. And kindly click on Seller and read instruction on how you can obtain certificates for any of our knowledge sharing series that we package for your choice. Kindly reach out to us on our WhatsApp line +234 803 383 2521 or send us email via ubestime@gmail.com. Information on our subsequent edition of the monthly knowledge sharing series will be shared across our social media platform as they come. Here, we learn, unlearn, relearn, network, and live ready for the ever-evolving world of work. We are happy to have you here and wish you a most impactful time with us today. It is my privilege this afternoon to welcome you on board once again, to introduce to you the convener of this program today, who happen to be our presenter today also, in person of Miss Adefunke Fola Oyinloye. Shall we put our hand together for her as we welcome her on board for the presentation?
Thank you so much, Mr. Adisa, for bringing me up today. I want to welcome everyone from every part of the world to our event and knowledge sharing series at the Administrators Hub. I'm excited this afternoon to see Mr. Samuel Dari on board. Please permit me to share my screen.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here today. Just as the moderator has said, my name is Adefunke Fola Oyinloye, and I'm so excited to be here at the June 2025 Knowledge Sharing Series of the Administrators Hub. I've been given the assignment by the management of the hub to speak to the topic, exploring modern information management processes and tools for the preservation of organizational legacies. Quickly running us through the presentation outline for today, we'll be looking at the presentation objectives, after which we'll look at introduction. Then we define the key terms in our topic. And after this, we'll look at modern information management processes and tools. We'll look at the issue of confidentiality. We can't be talking about information management and not be looking at confidentiality. So we look at confidentiality and information management, and we look at the importance of information management, particularly in the modern workplace. And thereafter, we'll come to our conclusion. What is the presentation objective for today? We hope by this presentation to provide participants with insights into what information management is in a modern workplace. We also hope to provide them with insight into modern information management processes and tools. So also we intend to provide them with insight into the importance of adopting modern information management processes, as well as insights into the importance of confidentiality in information management. Now, I'd like to start by saying this, that every organization is built on information. Every organization grows on information and grows in information. And every organization is sustained by information. And this information is either generated directly by the organization or committed to the organization on trust. And you will see the art, that is the image that we have there, showing us the different kinds of information that come into an organization. We have first what is called organizational information. That is information about the organization. It talks about the history of the organization, the growth of the organization, where the organization is at the particular moment that we are looking at the organizational information. And so let's take the administrator's hub, for instance. When the idea was inspired for us to come up with the administrator's hub, we began to take certain steps. We came up with a vision, and the first thing we did was to come up with a group of people that we call the think tank, which today serve as the management of the administrator's hub. And so together we came up with the vision, the mission, the core values, the program of event, all of those things. They are information about the organization. And then we went ahead so that we can keep that name. We went ahead, we registered the administrator's hall. Again, we have been having series of events on the administrator's hall. Everything that is information about the organization is an organization information. We also have what we call employee information, which is information that is given to us by our employees right from the time they wrote a letter to say that they are interested in being engaged in our organization. They sent, not with the letter, also something that they call their CV, the curriculum vitae or the resume. And that contains personal information. They have their biodata. Sometimes we're even asking for the number of children they have, depending on the organization. We're asking for the number of children they have, and then we're asking for their academic history, we're asking for their professional history. And as they stay on in your organization, they get promoted, they get penalized, they get sent out on training. Some people have health issues, and then they give all of these to the organization. Some people go on maternity leave, and their information begins to grow in that organization. Then we have the executive and managerial information, which is information that is generated by the executive and the managerial arm, management arm of the organization. They have meetings, they arrive at decisions on expansion, decision concerning their concerning structures, decision on collaboration, decision concerning even their what is it called now? Concerning the staff, concerning their clients, and so on and so forth. And so the organization has this information as well. As the organization begins to grow, even here at the administrator's hub, we have what we can classify as client or customer information, because there are persons who are members of the administrator's hub. And we sent a Google form to them with which we collected information concerning them. And then we have professional information, which is information concerning the profession that is being driven by that organization. And so you all agree with me that every organization is built on information. It grows in and on information and is sustained by information, making us to know the all-important role of information in every organization. And whether this information is generated directly by the organization or it is committed to the organization on trust, there is a way for us to manage this information, knowing that when we mismanage information, there are moral, ethical, and legal consequences. For instance, even in our traditional society, if information is given to us, if somebody confides in us, for instance, if we let go of it or we reveal it to other people, there are consequences. Consequences like ostracization. You hear it being said that this person is a snitch. In my Yoruba part of the world, they'll say Olofofo, and you know an Olofofo will be ostracized. And then coming to the more formal settings, there are ethical consequences. Because in every organization, there are policies, there are guidelines, there are rules. And so when we mismanage information, there are ethical and legal ethical consequences. And so also there are legal consequences when we mismanage information. This is why it becomes very expedient for us to continue to train our employee and retrain them across all the levels of information management. There are 5 levels of information management which we will be looking at. It's essential that we train every employee and retrain them, especially as some of these levels begin to evolve, just like we are having now. Before now, we had traditional ways of doing things manually, but now things are changing. And so new guidelines, new rules, new policies are emerging. New frameworks are coming up to ensure that information is managed appropriately. Information management in the 21st century workplace continues to experience a lot of evolutions caused, amongst other things, by technological advancement. For instance, the introduction of AI. We know that it's so easy for us to collect information now because we can just go to the search engine of our devices and type what we want there. And the information, if it's something that is meant to be from the external, the information comes to us. And so things are changing. And irrespective of whether we see it there in the open or whether it's something that is given to us, there are guidelines to managing the information that come to us. We have cloud computing, which makes it possible for us to store our information in the cloud. We have cybersecurity for the security of our information. You know, way back then, we will have strong cabinets where all these things are filed away and then they are named and all of that. And some will be named classified and they are locked up. But now, everything is digitalized. When digitalized, we have cybersecurity. There are digital security processes to store and to keep our images. To keep our information. And so because things are evolving, it is essential for us to know what information management is like in this new age and in this new time. So quickly, let us look at the definition of key terms. Robert Sheldon defines information as the output that results from analyzing, contextualizing, structuring, interpreting, or in other ways processing the data. What does this mean? It implies that all manner of data come to us. So information is different from data. Everything that comes to us is data. But when they have been processed, when they have been structured, when they have been interpreted, when they have been analyzed, and they become reliable, they become accurate, they have integrity, they are documents that can be referred to, then it becomes information. and we can use it for decision making. We can use it also for projection into the future. We know that sometimes data come to us, and then when they come, you find out that it is not the entire truth. I was looking at something in the office recently, and having worked on the data that was given to me, some other information began to come in, and I began to refine the data so that it can become a reliable, accurate, usable information with integrity. Like I said earlier on, information can be found in both public and private domains, but irrespective of where it is found, we must be sure that we consider the terms of use, because there are some information that are in public domain. You just, you use the Google search, pam, 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 the information comes. But we must be careful and note how that information can be used so that we do not run foul of the legal frameworks that guide the information that we are assessing. Next, we're looking at information management, and puts, succinctly, information management is the collection, the storage, management, and maintenance of data and other types of information. It involves the gathering, the dissemination, the archiving, and the destruction of information, just like we see in the image that is here before us. Information management is about collecting, storing, retrieving for use, archiving, and also the destruction of information. What does process mean? We're looking at the keywords in our topic. What does process mean? Process means a series of action, changes, or operations that produce a particular outcome or result. And I'm going to use this example to explain it. I work in a university environment, and we have what we call the admission process. It's a laid down process. It's a structured instruction on what everyone that is going through the admission process, the admission exercise, must go through. And so one after the other, you do it so that we can, at the end of the day, admit the best students. And so a process must be explicit. There must be no ambiguity around a process. It must be sequential. That is, it must state what step to take, one after the other. It must be repeatable, which means that you must be able to repeat the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that you have listed. You're able to repeat it over and again and get the same result. Then it is goal-oriented. Like I said, we are going through an admission process to the end that we admit the best qualified students into organization. And so we are saying that before we even go through a process, we are establishing our goal. And that is, if you look at the definition, it says that produce a particular outcome or result. That is the goal. What result do you want to come up with? What outcome do you want to come up with at the end of the exercise? We talked about goal-oriented, and then it is transformational, because each time you are going through a process, you are also checking out the process to see what and what you have done right, what and what you have not done right, and then it changes the margin. Each time I have to engage a process to achieve an outcome or a result, I sit back after engaging that process to see if there are places I could have improved, or there are parts of the processes that we can remove so that it wouldn't waste people's time. So it is reviewable and it is transformational. Last thing we're looking at is tool. What is a tool? A tool is something such as an instrument or apparatus that is used in performing an operation or necessary in the practice of a vocation or profession. And Merriam-Webster, and that's Merriam-Webster dictionary definition. And a tool could be physical. Because of the evolution of technology, it could be digital, and it could be conceptual. So looking at, and then the last thing, organizational legacies. What are organizational legacies? Organizational legacies, the history are the history of an organization, the story trail of activities, how the organization started, who were the people at the beginning, what were the decisions that have been made over the years. Are those decisions relevant now? Are they no longer relevant? Can they be used to make decisions in the future? That can they provide clarity when things around us seem easy? The values, the culture, the impact, the trade secrets, the accomplishments, the milestones, the landmark events of an organization. These are all organizational legacies. They tell the history of an organization and they provide profound identity to the organization and give direction when it is time to make decisions. And I have a quote here that says that a legacy that is not preserved is a legacy that is lost. So it means that all of this information about the organization, also at the introduction, we spoke about organizational information. Organizational information is organizational legacy. We need to be sure that it is true, it is usable, it is reliable, it has integrity, and it can be referred to. It is also storable. We must present organizational legacies in such a way that they are storable, they can be kept. One of the challenges that we have in Africa is that most of our history come in oral history. They are not documented. And in organizations, we expected to document everything that we do so that in the future we can refer to them as the need arises. Now, altogether, this topic that I've been given today, what does it mean? It means simply, the topic is exploring information management processes and tools in the modern workplace. And what it simply means is the equipment and sequential goal-oriented operations and actions that we engage in the process of collecting, storing, retrieving, archiving, and destroying information in a modern 21st century workplace. So what are the processes? We are going straight now into modern information management processes and tools. If you remember the cycle that I showed you at the beginning, that showed collection, that shows storage, that shows retrieving, that shows archiving and destruction. These are the processes involved in information management. And so we are going to look at all of them one by one and how they work. We're going to be looking at all of them one by one and how they work. And the first one we are looking at is information process. Before I go ahead, if you're talking about a modern information management processes and tools, it means that we have a traditional information management processes and tools. And for some of us who have been in the workplaces before the year 2000, we will know that the way we work now is not the way we used to work then. We had tools like the typewriter, we had the electric and the manual typewriter, we had fax machines, we had handheld telephones that we used in making calls, we had forms, printed forms that we used in collecting data. Letters were handwritten in most of the cases. And then when it is time to store the information, we had big rooms, large rooms, full of files. We call them record office, full of files and cabinets, and then we label them, we label them according to how we have decided to label them to make them easily accessible to us. And then at some point we'll say, we are archiving this document, and then we carry all the physical files and go and put them in a place, and we call the place archive. Okay. It's also a physical location.
Yes.
And then at some point we'll say, we may not need this information again, we destroy. It is the traditional process that has been taken to the modern platform, knowing now that what we're working with is digitalization. That process has now been taken up and then organized in such a way. So we have digital tools for collecting information. We have digital tools for storing information, for retrieving information. We have digital tools for archiving information, and digital tools for the destruction of information. So I felt it necessary to bring up this comparison between the traditional information management processes and tools and what we have today. So in a modern organization, how do we collect information? And what is information collection? This is how we gather information for the purpose of decision making and future references. That is information collection. For instance, the administrator's hub. Even today, we have sent a number of links and we have said, click this link and join us. We are collecting information. I remember that when administrators turned one, we use that information to determine how many nations are involved, are members of the, from how many nations of the world are members from. We used it in determining the kind of career, the kind of profession that our members were involved in. We have gathered information. We have received information for future reference, for decision making, and we were able to use it. However, if we are going to collect information, the first thing we should make sure we do is that we identify the purpose for collecting information. We just don't go around collecting information for collecting sake. Why are we collecting this information? What do we want to use it for? And then our information collection must be in alignment with relevant legal frameworks. While I was working on this document, I found out that across the nations of the earth, there are different legal frameworks for the collection of information. But certain things were general across the nations. And, some of those things we will look at today. So we must be conversant with the legal frameworks that guide collection of information, receiving information from people in our organization so that we do not run foul of the law. Every organization is also expected to put up an extant data collection policy. Every organization who can collect data or information, who can collect information, who cannot collect information, on what grounds can you collect the information, when can you disseminate the information, who can disseminate, who cannot disseminate. And these are things to consider when we are collecting information. I was speaking with somebody, I think it was last week, and she was telling me how, as secretary to a committee, someone who was not a member of the committee, who is still not a member of the committee, who has nothing to do with the committee, called her one day and said, that your committee, can you please send me the report of the committee? She said she was surprised. Send you the report of the committee. For what? That person wanted to collect information, but was not authorized to do it. The secretary of the committee, like we have it in most organizations, is authorized to collect information during the meetings. But this person was not part of the meeting, yet wanted to obtain that information. And then she said that she was stunned. And thank God she knows what she's doing. So she just didn't bother to give that information. So the collector of information must be authorized to collect. You cannot just move around. You are in an organization and then you are moving around the clients of your organization, or you are moving around the employees in the organization, collecting information from them for your own personal use. Today, because we use the Google form and other such online forms, Trueform and so on, SurveyMonkey, we use all of them to generate information. But you can't just throw it into an organization and be asking people to give you information, particularly information that has to do with that organization, without first receiving authorization from the organization. And so the collector must be authorized. And the person that we are collecting information from, the informant or the source of any information, must be aware that we are collecting information and must have given consent. If we had been using Zoom this afternoon, there is something that will appear each time a new participant wants to join. This meeting is being recorded, and then okay. If you're okay with it, you click, which means you have given your consent. Because maybe at some point you will type something, your information is being collected. You say something, your information is being collected. So you have given consent for your information to be collected, for your particulars to be collected. And then everybody must be aware. The person that's giving information must be aware that information is being collected. We have situations whereby you go into people come into your office, or you go into people's offices, and they will there's something funny that people normally do. You're talking and they are recording without your consent, without informing you.
That is
You're
common
talking,
now.
yes, you are talking and they are recording. And you begin to wonder how acceptable is this? And some persons will go and use it against the person after that. Maybe they do not know that it is not acceptable, it is against the law, and it has dire consequences. And so for people who do it, who collect information without letting people know, there are legal consequences that comes with it. The collection process must be open and transparent. Nothing must be hidden. Collection must be purposeful and relevant. We said that the first thing you do is, before collecting information, is that you are identifying, why am I collecting this information? If I'm asking the employee to fill a particular form, what decision do I want to make? Is it relevant to their engagement in the organization? The information being collected must also be accurate and correct. What are the processes for information storage? And what is information storage? Information storage is how we identify, organize, and preserve collected information. And so we have information, maybe on our devices. There's a report, there is a memo, there is a minute of meeting. We have this diverse information. There is something on students, and then we create folders on our system for them. And we give it one general name, just like I've given us now. Minutes of dash committee meetings, minutes of dash board meeting. And then maybe the main folder is named minutes. And then inside it, there are subfolders differentiating the type of minutes, the type of committees, the type of boards. And then we name them and label them for easy identification, so that when we want to pick up this information after now, it is easy for us to pick. It is the organization, the naming and labeling of our documents, and then the organization and categorization of our documents by type, whether they are audio, they are visual, they are word. And sometimes we categorize or organize our documents in folders on our systems, on our devices, maybe by subject matter or by the offices that this information came from, or the period. Whichever one we find easiest to do, whichever one we find easy to retrieve, we will organize and categorize. And whatever document we are storing must be easy to access by authorized users. Because there are some times that wherever the information has been stored is accessible to more than one person. And so we introduce access control, everybody with their own code to access. And so we are storing them in a place that is easily accessible. If we are giving passwords, they must be passwords that we easily remember, but at the same time, they must not be passwords that must be easily hackable. I could remember there was a time, one of my cousins said, "Fola, what is your password for a particular device. And he laughed and said, I'm sure it's going to be Jesus is Lord or praise the Lord, something like that. Because he understands my belief and he understands where I'm coming from. And I laughed. I said, if you know what my password is, you'll be surprised. So it's easily accessible to you, but it must be such that it cannot be easily hacked. People cannot predict. And that's why sometimes they'll say, don't use your birthday. Don't use things that people can easily trace to you as your password. And in cases whereby there are a lot of people, there are multiple accesses, then we can introduce access control, everybody with their own code, which they keep close to their heart. Stored documents can also be encrypted so that unauthorized persons do not have access to them, and there must be regular audit trails. What are audit trails? Checking the control to be sure that, the persons that accessed, were they the right persons or it has been hacked into, and so on and so forth. Documents stored must be easily retrievable by authorized users, and the storage device must be safe and secured, not easy to hack. And for every storage that we perform, there must be backup provision. There was a time I read on the internet that there was a particular cloud storage system that crashed. Now, if there's someone who had everything, he or she, or an organization, everything they have stored in that particular cloud storage system, it means that their legacies have been destroyed. So what we are saying is that even if you have it stored in a cloud, one cloud, store it in another cloud. Thank God there are so many clouds. And you can even use SSD and HDD. When we're looking at tools, you will see some of those things there. But make sure that you have a backup provision for whatever it is that you have stored. And then the next process we're looking at is information retrieval, which is the process of obtaining specific required and relevant information from a large collection of data, documents, or other sources. If I was the secretary, for instance, of a meeting of the board of directors, of a meeting that I held in May, and then we need to refer to that meeting to make some decisions. And I'm told, get that document. We're talking about electronic documents. We're talking about digitalized documents. How do I get the document? Because I've stored everything away in folders and subfolders, I've labeled them. How do I get them? What is the process for obtaining this specific required and relevant information? The first thing is that we must possess the statutory authorization or receive the required one-time authorization to retrieve. And, I'm going to break this down. If it is a general storage device that so many people access, if you're going to retrieve any information from that kind of tool, then you must have statutory authorization to retrieve that information. And if you do not, and you have been authorized for a one-time of retrieval, you must have the required one-time of authorization to retrieve that information. I'm talking now for cases whereby we have so many people gaining access to the storage device, because there are some devices like that a number of people use, and then all of them are gaining access to it. But all of them have their access codes. So it's either you have a permanent access code to retrieve this information, or you have a one-off access code to retrieve the information. Before you go on a journey of information retrieval, be clear about the information that you require. What exactly am I going to look for? So that when you open and then a lot of folders come your way, and you see some folders that are confidential and you have no business with, your eyes are not going there. Because you must remember that if you have a one-time off authorization, for instance, which means that you are just there for the first time. For somebody who has a statutory authorization to a information storage platform of an organization, it means that you see it all the time. But for somebody that is coming there for the first time, then you see something about promotion, and then you think, yay, you were told to go and look for information on a client, and they have given you the name of the client. Instead of you to go and check the folder client and check the subfolder of that particular organization, because you saw promotion, your eyes are already doing like this because you are a staff of that organization. You must be clear about the information that you are going to look for. But not only that, be clear about where the information is stored. You are not a tourist. Where is it stored? And so you have been told when you open the platform, you will see a folder that says clients, and then a subfolder, and then you see different subfolders with the names of the clients. Pick that folder, and inside that folder, you will see another folder that says dates, and then you can pick information for the period that you want to pick. So you must be clear about the information that you are going to, so that you go straight to that information to retrieve. You must also be clear about where the information is stored. And you must have the right words and phrases and tools to use for the retrieval. What are you going to use for the retrieval? Like I said, you have been told to go there and look for clients. And so you have looked for clients. And then the administrator's hall. When you open, you see the subfolder for the administrator's hall. And then you are looking at another subfolder inside the administrator's hall that says retainership. Maybe talking about our retainership to train the staff of the United Nations. Are you getting what I'm saying? So you are using the right words and the right phrases and the right tools, the right search engines to get the required information. And you use only for the authorized purpose. When you retrieve information, it is to be used only for the purpose for which it is authorized. So you are retrieving the information for a particular purpose. It should be used only for that purpose, and it should be disseminated only as authorized. I just told us a story about somebody that was asking a secretary for information, the secretary of a committee. You can now imagine if that secretary does not understand these frameworks and just disseminates that information. So when we retrieve information, it should be disseminated only as authorized. And whatever the case may be, we must maintain confidentiality. No matter what information comes to us, we must maintain confidentiality. We must protect our access codes and passwords and not divulge it to anybody, especially when the platform is general. What the audit trail helps us to do is, code number 444 accessed the platform on so date at so time. Code number dash access the platform at so date at so time. If, for instance, there has been a breach on that storage platform, that is what will help the organization to know. And if you are careless with your access codes and passwords, and somebody uses your access code or password to access an organizational platform, then it means that whatsoever that person does with it, especially if it's criminal, the person that owns the code will be made responsible. The next we are looking at is information archiving process. There are some organizations that are 100 years. There are organizations that are more than that, 400 years, which means that they continue to secure information. For those who are 100 years and 400 years, 50 years, a lot of them have digitized their information, particularly in the last 20 years, since Y2K. Much more importantly, in the last 5 years, post-COVID. They have digitized, and digitization is the process of converting, amongst other things. There are other things that digitization is about, but it's the process of converting your hard copies to soft copies, accessible soft copies, digitalized copies. And so, if you have information that has been there for a long time, how do you preserve them? How do you keep them? There are some that in 10 years, nobody may move near them. And so they are moved into archives, digitalized archives. What is the purpose of archiving? Archiving is meant for long-term retention of information, and this is for the purpose of preserving valuable organizational history. There are some things you cannot destroy. They must always be there. If your organization is 1,000 years, they must be there. And then they help you to comply with legal frameworks. We can, go to the archive, retrieve the information to help us to see the trail and the history of legal frameworks across the years and how they can be engaged, to make decisions. They also support our investigations and litigations. Somebody, for instance, says, "Oh, I was a student in so and so university between 1964 and 1967 or 68." Definitely, information that old is already in the archive, but an investigation is being carried out on such a person. Then we can return back to the archive. We won't say that, "Oh, we have destroyed all the information that are 20 years old and we don't have any information again." No, we can go back to the archive, which is where we retain information for long term. And then we can use archived information for reference in decision making. The archives are not accessed frequently or easily. They are very complex and very detailed, going by the volume of information in them, and they are well arranged. And they are used for scaling large volumes of inactive data, which means that whatsoever solution you are using to archive your information must be scalable. I'm sure that a few of us use the Google Drive, and then you are told to buy extra gigs. I'm on 100 gig now, and they have been asking me to increase. We keep increasing. That's been scalable. It has the capacity to increase. And when we're looking at archiving, the solution we are going to use must be secure. It mustn't be easily accessible. It must be usable. We are not bringing something that even the person who brought it don't know how to use it. I know of an equipment that was brought into an organization at the time, and nobody could use that equipment. So whatever solution we're using for archiving must be usable, must be scalable. I've explained scalable, and must be secure. And then we should categorize information to be archived. And now we actually even have some tools. We'll look at it later. That once you push your information, we'll categorize, we'll organize and categorize your information and put everything in their space digitally. When archiving, we should establish clear policies and regulations for archiving, for accessing and retrieval. Archived documents must also be documents of high integrity. We said the other time that they are documents that we refer to long after they had, come into existence in that organization to support our investigation. And then, to combat litigation. If the information now does not have integrity, how can we use it? For investigation, for decision making, and then to back or to support us when there are litigations. So we must ensure that archived documents are of high integrity. We should also carry out regular audits on the archived documents. I explained what regular auditing of document is, and auditing trail, to be sure that the archived documents, because they are not always frequently, they're not frequently accessed. It is possible that they have been tampered with at some point or the other. So what we are saying is that we should carry out regular audits. We can make it monthly, we can make it bi-monthly, we can make it quarterly, but we should make sure that we're regularly, that there's an office that's assigned to that. The Information Management Office is assigned to that to ensure that the archived documents are safe and secure. Now, the last process is information destruction. And someone is asking, why are we destroying information? Organizations destroy information for so many reasons. They destroy information sometimes that they don't want to be traceable. Sometimes they destroy it because they are old. There are so many reasons why we destroy information, but it is a process in information management. And when we say information destruction, the name already tells us what it is. It means that we are taking the information away from that organization. Some organizations have very indicting information that if it's not taken away, it will indict them, it will indict other people. And like I said, it is because of age that some information are being destroyed. And data or information may be destroyed by incineration. The hard drives, the SSD, the flash drives, because those ones are still physical tools, even though they are modern information management tools. They can be incinerated, which means that they are burnt. There are incinerators where the degree of fire is very high. And then they are burnt so that no traces of those things are found. Some are shredded, some are pulverized, some are crushed. And I said to myself that you can even decide to shred and to crush before you incinerate. And before information is being destroyed, we must ensure that everything that ought to have been destroyed is actually being presented for destruction. We're ensuring that nobody has held back nothing that can get the organization into trouble. So there's a proper audit of everything that should be destroyed. And everyone that should be a part of the destruction process is there. And all of them have said, we have agreed to it. Everything that should be destroyed is here. And we have taken them through the process. Like I said, for hard drives and SSDs and all those physical tools, we can actually shred and pulverize and crush them before we now take them to the process of incineration. And then for the digitalized, the digitalized information, even for all our SSDs and others, and the SSDs, the HDDs, the hard drives, and all of that, we can delete. But we found out that sometimes when you delete, there's still a back memory. And so your information is still there, which is why you may decide to degauss, to overwrite, or to format so that there can be a complete wiping of the information. And for information destruction process, you must establish a data retention information or information destruction policy. Every organization must have an information destruction policy. And it states the type of information that can be destroyed. How old will such information be when we are destroying them? And how do we destroy the information? When we are carrying out the information destruction process, we must maintain and respect organizational and legal frameworks for information destruction. I told you while I was putting this paper together, I came across a lot of legal frameworks across different nations. In some nations, you must obtain a certificate of destruction of information. You must obtain a certificate of destruction. And there must always be an audit of all the information that is being destroyed. And everybody that is a part of the destruction process affirm to it, sign that indeed all of this information put together have been destroyed. And then the information destruction must be performed by the complete complement of authorized units, offices of the organization. I've said already that if it is necessary, you must obtain a certificate of destruction. It could even be from the state to destroy the information, because the state may be requiring that information at some point in the future. And so they say, oh, we know about it, and it is listed among the information that was destroyed. And then after destruction has been performed, especially when you are deleting, overwriting, formatting, degaussing, and wiping, make sure you verify that the destruction has been performed. Because sometimes you think you have overwritten and you have done all of those things, and you just see this information because it has gone into storage somewhere else, popping up again. So we should verify that the destruction has been performed. Let's quickly look through some of the tools that we use for the different levels of information management. And for collection, we have physical tools. If you are collecting information, we have physical tools like our computer system, audiovisual recording gadgets, e.g. telephones, midgets. We collect information through minutes of meetings, event reporting, communication via memos, emails, and other authorized means of communication. As we are today, I am communicating with us. We're using the StreamYard, the YouTube via StreamYard. I'm releasing information, and it is being collected by whosoever is viewing now and will view later. We also collect information when we engage conceptual tools like frameworks, policies, models, and other equipment that we use in generating information. We have digital tools like online surveys, Google Forms, SurveyMonkey, Typeforms. We have collaboration tools like what we are using right now. We are sharing information like Zoom, like Google Meet. And all of this must follow. All of these tools we must ensure that the processes for information collection is obeyed. We have meeting minutes and event capturing software for recording, such as the Google Docs, Evernote, Fellow, and so on. And we have the emerging trends like data analytics, predictive analysis, ChatGPT, AI, wearable smart devices, and so on. What tools do we use for storage? Before I go into what these tools are, we must note when we are determining our storage tools that they must be of high performance, they must be secured and securable, they must have large storage capacity, and they must be scalable. And some of the tools that we have now for storage include solid-state drives in computers and other devices. As a matter of fact, when I was going to buy my device, and the IT director of the organization that I was working with, the university I was working with at the time, was going to make a recommendation. The reason why I recommended this particular laptop was because he said it has SSD. And when I was trying to understand what is SSD, he said the capacity is higher. And I know that I have a lot of documents, that the capacity is higher and the performance is fast. So we can store our digital information in solid state drives, as we have in our computers and other such devices, in hard disk drives, HDDs, also in computers and in servers, in external drives and in flash drives, in the cloud, OneDrive, Google Drive, there are so many of them that you can store your information in. But please note again that whatever you're using, and then the blockchain, whatever you are using, it's of high performance, is secured, it has large storage capacity. Most of the time when we talk about blockchain, a lot of people associate it with cryptocurrency, but it's actually a storage device that allows for collaboration among several devices. And, a lot of them at the same time can access information at the same time. So these are some of the information storage tools for a modern workplace. And retrieval tools. We have Google search engines such as Google. We have query languages, so that's sequential query language. We have the API, which is also known as the application program interface. Like I said, we're just running through the tools. And we have the information archiving tools. We have said that when we are archiving it's for a long time. And so we're looking at cloud storage, sort of Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, and so on and so forth. We're looking at establishing a document management system where you can save your documents, Excel, PDF, PowerPoint, and so on. Then we have the digital asset management system, which is where you save you can archive media files like videos, like designs and audio. We also have the on-premise storage network attached storage and storage area networks domiciled in our organizations. Now, what can we use for destruction of information? We can use incinerators. We said one of the ways by which we can destroy information is by incinerating them. We are talking about burning them. So it means that the organization has incinerators, especially for that purpose. Then there are crushers, there are pulverizers, there are shredders. But like I said the other time, even after you have shredded the SSD and the HDD and the flash drive and all those physical tools for information storage, you may want to go the extra mile and also incinerate them. And then there are several soft tools that we use for information destruction. That as it may, we now move to confidentiality and information management. Confidentiality, I hope that's the next thing. Yes, and information management. And what is confidentiality? Confidentiality is how we treat information that an individual has disclosed in a relationship of trust. Let us note that word. An individual has given us information in a relationship of trust and with the expectation that it will not be divulged to others without permission in ways that are inconsistent with the understanding of the original disclosure. So as an employee of an organization, as a student in your university or in your secondary school, in your research institute, or as a client in an organization, you have disclosed an amount of information for the purpose of business, for the purpose of education. And whosoever it is that you are disclosing the information to is expected to keep that information without divulging it to any other in any way that is inconsistent with the understanding of the original disclosure. There are times also that we have non-disclosure articles signed by members of an organization to ensure that the information given to them is not disclosed. One thing that I found out, I've had it been said at so many platforms, is the fact that information is given to someone, maybe because you are the secretary of a committee or you're part of a committee. And even though it's an executive, a managerial information, just like I said at the beginning, and before approval is given for this information to be disseminated, the entire organization know about it because the information has gotten into the ears or the hands of the wrong person. And when we do this, we do not understand that sometimes we get ourselves into trouble for doing that. There are strong legal consequences for it. Last year, I did a paper on confidentiality at a platform. And while I was researching on that paper, I came across, I think her name is Jada Pickett. She was an employer at Coca-Cola who wanted to sell the trade secret of Coca-Cola to Pepsi-Cola. And Pepsi-Cola played along with her until they handed her over to law enforcement agents. And as at the time that I was looking at that, she was doing her jail time. So we must understand that when information is committed to us, it's our responsibility to treat such information with confidentiality. Where I serve currently, there are so many times verifying bodies will write to me to verify the certificates and results of my students. But if it does not come with the consent of the student, I don't verify. Sometimes they're also in a worry. They will just push it. I'll push it back to the organization and tell them, please attach the consent of the applicant. It is expected that we do that so that we do not run foul of the law. Breaching confidentiality sometimes is intentional, but we know that at other times it's not intentional. Maybe you mistakenly, for instance, you want to send an email and you mistakenly added somebody to the mailing list who is not supposed to be there. I know in most cases for emails, once it is gone, it is gone. It may be non-intentional, but for some persons, it is intentional. This woman I'm talking about, for her to have carried herself to another organization to say, I want to sell the trade secret of one organization to you, that was intentional. And I've written here that breaches of information should be penalized in line with the statutory regulations of every organization. Until we begin to penalize breaches, people will not understand the value of confidentiality in breaches. Confidentiality in information. But as an organization, so that we do not just rush to penalizing people, how do we prevent breaches? And the first thing I have recommended here is that there must be an availability of detailed, explicit, unambiguous policy on classification of information and the handling of information, which means that our policy must classify every form of information coming out from that organization and how it should be handled. Who are the persons who are authorized to publish the information just in case there is a need for it to be published, and who are the people that are not authorized? Every employee must be trained, just like we're having it today, on how to treat information, how to maintain confidentiality on organizational information. There must also be the introduction of the signing of a confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement into the onboarding process. What am I saying? At the point that we are onboarding new employees, everybody must be made to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And they must see the consequences. They must read through so that when they are caught violating, they will know that there will be consequences. Another way of preventing breaches is by introducing access controls to confidential digital information. We have said it over and again. There should be regular monitoring and auditing of confidential information and sensitive data to be sure that there's not been a crash, a hack into it. And we should institute penalties for breaching confidentiality. What is the importance of information management in a modern organization? Just like our topic today says, the first thing is that it helps us to preserve organizational legacies. It helps us to preserve the history, the journey, the traversing of that organization, the activities of the organization. Everything that has to do with that organization, it helps us to preserve it so that from time to time we can refer to them. Another thing is that it helps us to improve in decision making because we have something to refer to. We are able to make a reference. It has happened before. How was it handled? A precedent has been set. How was it handled? And so it helps us to make the right decisions. It also provides clarity in easy circumstances. Information management, particularly when we store, when we archive information and we're able to retrieve them to make decisions. They provide clarity. We are arguing back and forth. This is the way it is. Oh, the last meeting, this was what we agreed. Oh, that was not what we agreed. We just easily retrieve the minute of that meeting, and then it provides solution to every one of us. It reduces the risk of facing legal implications. If we understand information management, And we kept saying from the beginning, align yourself with the legal frameworks for collection, for storing, for retrieving, for archiving, for destruction. If we align ourselves with all these legal frameworks, then we'll reduce the risk of facing legal implications. And then information management helps us to secure organizational information. We spoke about storage, we spoke about archiving. It helps us to secure organizational information, and it also improves our efficiency. The modern information management process helps to improve on efficiency, which means we're able to do our jobs better. We're talking about collection of data the other time. I remember when we were in the university, I was in the university between 1983 and 1987. And when we want to collect data, we'll first type a questionnaire. They will roll it out for us. And then we'll be taking it up and down for people to complete. But now you just send your Google form from the comfort of your home, and information has come. Even in your organization, you want information from members of your team, you just quickly create a Google form, and then the information is coming. Something has been stored away, information, the minutes of a meeting, the report of a committee, it has been stored away. You just pop, you are not looking into a file, liver file, and scrolling, and then flipping pages. Because you know the right passwords, you know the right keywords, you know the right phrases on your screen. On your keyboard. You just type the keywords and you know what to do. So these are some of the importance of information management in a modern workplace. As we begin to conclude, let me say that organizational legacies are the very essence of every organization, and they must be preserved. With the rate at which technological advancement is being experienced in workplace practices, embracing and adopting modern technologies within extant legal and ethical provision, and preserving these legacies become non-negotiable for every organization, which means that we should stop holding on to the traditional and move, like we say at the Administrators Lab, learn, unlearn, and relearn. Move, embrace, engage, adopt modern technologies so that we will not be left on the journey. Albert Einstein says, and I quote, "The measure of intelligence is in the ability to change." And so we are saying we're changing. We are adopting modern information management processes and tools as against the traditional. And let me also state that ensuring confidentiality also becomes non-negotiable, noting the holistic consequences of non-compliance. Andy Rooney said, and I quote, "In Washington," please listen to this quote very well. "In Washington, a confidential assistant is someone who, if you don't want to know something, you go and ask him and he won't tell you. You also don't want to know, so you went to ask the person will not tell you," which means that in Washington, a confidential assistant is fully and truly confidential.
Yes.
And I'm saying maintaining confidentiality should, however, not just be about Washington and confidential assistants. It should be a global currency and the business of every employee in the workplace, irrespective of a nomenclature. It's on this note that I want to say a very big thank you to every one of you for listening to me today and for your time. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ma. That's a very powerful and loaded delivery, Ma. Thank you, Ma. Thank you for this, Ma. During the presentation, I was following up. There is a lot of things that you dropped concerning this. Information technology as management of information management has taken a new turn. The perspective that that came to mind when you are delivering this. So it's an holistic thing that we cannot deny. It is on this note that I want to throw it to the floor, that anyone that has have any question that want to come up with a question should put it on the comment section where we pick it from there. They have been gathering some questions from what you have said initially, from all this delivery that you give to us. This is center on implementation. We still have some organizations who are yet to have implemented fully all this information management in the organization. They still go about when they have this data are not available to do this, to do this. Like you said, Ma, I want to ask this question while we are waiting for questions from people outside and our viewers across the world. I want to ask this very particular question that your word said, yeah, every organization runs on information, which is the truth that everyone knows. But I want to know that what are the key considerations for implementing information management tools in an organization? Yeah, what are the key considerations for implementing information management tools in an organization? Because with few experiences I have around me, I discovered it's a problem for some people. So what are these things that you can give us?
Thank you so much, the moderator.
Yes.
And the first thing I would like to talk about
Yes.
is, in much as modern information management processes and tools are essential,
Yes.
as of today, funding is still very high.
Yes.
And so quite a number of organizations that have not adopted, they have not adopted, not because they do not want to adopt. Some of them are not adopted modern information management processes and tools because they are low on funding. If they have more funds, then they will engage these tools and these processes. And so, if across the nations, because technological advancement is a global thing, if across the nations of the earth, we can organize, we can now come up with budgets that can sustain, that can support technological advancement as they come. That makes it easier, cheaper for these tools and processes to be engaged. Then we can fully get into the engagement of modern information technology. Another thing is acceptability. Quite a number of people, the last time we were here, we spoke about adaptability.
Yes.
Quite a number of people have failed to be agile and adapt accordingly. And so you have to keep talking to them about it all of the time. Even before we started, sir, you and I had a discussion before we went on air. We had a discussion.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
How last year we had a chat around AI, the use of artificial intelligence, and how you had your reservation. I still remember that chat. How you had your reservations then, but how your opinion has changed within the last 1 year.
Yes.
And now you use ChatGPT to do some things. So that is a major challenge. Accepting, adapting, adapting.
And adapting. Acceptability and adapting.
Yes. And so what we need to do when that happens is to make our employees, if for instance an organization is ready, has the resources, then we need to take our employees through series of training and an understanding of the benefits. When you do not know the benefit of a thing, you don't use it.
Yes.
I'm sure that it was when you had engaged ChatGPT and then you saw the benefit. Oh, this was what they were talking about. Ah, okay. So me too, I can use it.
Mm.
Sometimes if they do not know the benefit, they will not engage it. We have now left, the organization and its ability or inability to fund the use of modern information management tools. And we have now come to even the individuals in the organization and embracing the need, the use of this modern information technology. But the truth of the matter is that anybody, any organization, any individual that will not embrace modern information management tools and processes will
You'll be
soon
left
be
behind.
the museum.
It will be obsolete. You'll be left behind.
Very obsolete, very,
Mm.
very
Mm.
obsolete, moribund, of
Mm.
no use at all.
Mm.
And so that was why I made that appeal to the government of our nations to make these tools accessible so that they're not too expensive for people to get. A lot of people want to engage those things. I've been to some organizations where I went to train, and I've seen people they want to enjoy it, they want to use it, they've heard about it, but the organization is not financially empowered to get them those tools. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Ma. So I don't know whether we have anyone around that still have questions. Questions. Few minutes. Questions. You can come up with questions regarding the teaching we have had today. It is important for us to understand that every organization runs on information, and information is very important for every organization. Very important for every organization. As we have had, I'm expecting us to come up with a lot of questions so that will give us a clear view that everyone understands what our presenter has given unto us today. Very robust teaching and information share with us today. Okay. In the absence of no further question, we join my voice with the voice of other people, other participants today, to appreciate our presenter today. I will join my voice with them to appreciate you for a job well done. I want to pray for you that more wisdom and more grace for you in this endeavor. We appreciate you for taking your time out of your tight schedule to give us this teaching that is very loaded and powerful, insightful, and thought-provoking. Also in this edition of June 2025 KSS, Knowledge Sharing Series of the Administrative Org. And I pray that the strength of the Lord will be upon you in the name of Jesus. It is on this note that we have come to the end of this program today. I want to appreciate everyone that has participated across the world, join us. We still want you to also share our program, join our social media handles on LinkedIn, Facebook. You can as well join our WhatsApp group and also the YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also join the growing community of professionals that we have on Telegram. Somebody just joined us when about to close now. Somebody just joined through this channel now. You can also join, tell your friends, your colleagues, and everyone. And I wish you the best. Thank you and God bless.
Before we
Bye.
go,
Okay.
no, just before we
Okay.
go, I just needed to quickly make a correction. When I
Okay,
was
ma'am.
talking about the woman that gave out information, when I gave that
Okay,
name,
ma'am.
I knew
Okay.
that it may not be correct. The name of the woman, the correct name of the woman is Joya Williams. She backed
Julia
8 years in,
Williams.
yes, she backed 8 years imprisonment for trying to sell Coca-Cola secrets to Pepsi. So her name is Joya
Okay.
Williams. I don't know what name I called before. If it's somebody's
Okay.
name, I do apologize. That's not the name. The name is Joya Williams.
Joya
Thank you so
Williams.
much.
Okay.
I just thought
Thank
to
you, ma.
make this straight.
Okay,
We're
ma.
talking about legal frameworks and
Legal
all of
framework.
that.
Yes. 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 I understand.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
ma.
you so much, sir. Thank you
Yes,
so
ma.
much.
Thank you, everybody. It is on this note we draw the curtain for the June edition of our KSS. So see you next month. Bye.
Bye.